Howdy folks, Dave here at Thunder Mesa Studio, where it's time for episode 3 of our HO scale Christmas layout build, the Santa Fe and St. Nick. And as you can plainly see, this episode is all about making snowy scenery. If you've been following this series from the beginning, you've seen episode 1, where we built the benchwork, and then episode 2, where we built up and sculpted these southwestern landforms, added track, and got some trains running. But this time, we're turning it into a winter wonderland. But before we do that, we need to finish up the scenic painting on the red rocks so they'll look realistic underneath all that snow. You know, this raw sienna color that we painted everything with is a good start, but it's a little too monochromatic for me. So I've mixed up a lighter shade by just adding some white to that base color to make a kind of a lighter tan. Now I'm going to take my same brush and I'm going to go lightly over the top of all of the rock work to help bring out the detail. I'm just hitting the tops of the texture, not trying to get back down into the cracks and crevices. And this will create a little bit of contrast. A lot of this is going to be covered with snow, but I want to make sure that the rock that does show through looks good, looks like rock. And if you're not comfortable painting around the track here like I am, feel free to remove it or cover it with masking tape or something until you're done with this step. I am doing all of the rock faces, but I'm not worried too much about the flat surface down here because that is pretty much all going to be covered in snow. Now, if you're familiar with dry brushing, this is a similar technique. You don't have to be too particular or precise about it. This is one of the actually really fun steps because you don't have to worry about it too much. A lot of times you'll put this color on, and as you're looking at it, you think, oh, that's really bright, but keep in mind acrylic and latex paints always dry a shade or two darker than they go on. So it's going to look a little garish at first, but then after it dries, it kind of just blends back in. Now I've mixed up a even lighter shade of tan. I've added some more white to the paint because I want to create a band through here like you often see out in the southwestern deserts or the high desert, Colorado Plateau country. I'll carry this through all the way across, and it'll really help to sell that look of Arizona sandstone, Arizona red rock country. This little band up here running through the middle of the Big Butte looks like a good place for a lighter tone also. Maybe that's some limestone in there. Now if I was going to leave this layout, bare rock like this, like most of the Thunder Mesa layout, I'd probably, keep going and add a few more colors here and there, some burnt sienna, some burnt umber, darken some of the shadows, lighten some other places, add more highlights, things like that. But since so much of this is going to be covered with snow, there's really not much point in doing that. So now the stage is set. I think it's time to make it snow. Now, there are a few commercial products out there that you can use for snow, but frankly, they're a little overpriced in my opinion. And you know, this is a DIY channel, so we're going to be making it ourselves. And fortunately, everything that you need to make very convincing, very realistic snow is going to be available to you at your local discount store. We've got some baking soda, some Mod Podge, some white acrylic craft paint, and just a little bit of white glitter. We want to start by putting about a cup or so of baking soda into the container. It's probably more than enough. Now, I'm going to pour this Mod Podge in on top of that. And there are no, as you can see, there are no precise measurements here. We're just kind of eyeballing it. Take a stir stick and start to mix that up. You just want to add, you know, more Mod Podge or more baking soda depending on how thick of a snow mixture you want to have. I want to add a little bit of this white craft paint. Add a little bit more Mod Podge. Mix it up thoroughly, just using some little stir sticks for that. A Mod Podge is a PVA, polyvinyl acetate. It's very similar to like white glue. All right, now that is ready to start putting on our scene. A handy tool for applying the snow is a artist's palette knife like this. But you know, you can use the popsicle stick or your finger or whatever else is handy. I'm not going to cover the entire layout with this mixture. A lot of the flat surface areas, I'm just going to use paint. I'll just use some white paint on. But this stuff is great for building up drifts and places where the snow is going to collect in thicker layers, like on the tops of things, like these little formations right here. And I found that once you get a good coating of the snow up on top of a formation like this, you can just take your finger and pull it down the sides, and it's going to catch naturally on the tops of those strata lines that we carved in and look really, really realistic and natural. And then while it's still tacky, I'll sprinkle on a little bit of the glitter just to give it a little sparkle, a little shine, not too much, don't overdo it. Now on a project like this, you're going to go through several batches of this snow. This is probably my third or fourth batch already. The amount of working time you have with it is going to depend on how wet and goopy you make the mixture to begin with. You can add a little bit of water to it as you go. If it starts to harden up inside your container, you can add a little bit of water to it. Extend that working time a little bit. Right now, I'm just trying to get it on the tops of these things. And then I'll come back once it starts to set up a little bit and refine it a little bit more. You got to pay attention to where the snow is going to build up in drifts, like back here in between these rocks. It's kind of hard to get to, but it's going to add a lot more realism to have snow back in there. Now as this batch starts to set up, once again I'll take my finger, just kind of pull it down so it gets into that rocky texture where snow would naturally stick to. You see how that makes it look much more realistic, just doing that. It starts to stick to your fingers too much. A little bit of water, you can just dip your fingers in there. And then again, while that's still tacky, sprinkle on a little bit of glitter. A little glitter goes a long way. Now up here on these vertical cliff faces, it's actually much more effective and easier just to use some white acrylic paint and a small brush to add the look of snow all these little shelves here. Jumping ahead a little bit, I think our snowy scene is starting to come together. As you see, I've started to add some pine trees. And these are very basic pine trees that I picked up on eBay. They come in a bag. I think there's about 100 of them. The thing I like about them, there's all different sizes. And if you're wondering why there are pine trees here in the American Southwest, I suggest you Google the world's largest ponderosa pine forest. You'll find that it's located right here in Arizona. So yes, we do have pine trees here in the high desert. So I thought it would be cool to cover them with a little bit of snow. And this is exactly the same snow mixture on the trees as it is on the ground. Right out of the bag, these trees don't look like much. They're basically just glorified pipe cleaners with a little bit of green ground foam glued onto them. First thing I'm going to do is remove this plastic trunk, which allows them to stand up on a table. We're not going to use that. I'm going to use the wire to plant them right directly into the layout. Throw that away. Then I'm going to take my leftover snow from the last batch, just use my finger, run it right down the sides like that, starting at the top and working down towards the bottom. Give the look of a pine tree that's just weathered a snowstorm. Back over in our scene, the snow hasn't completely hardened yet. I can just put some white glue on the end of this wire and push it right in where I want it. I like to use the smaller ones up higher here on the butte to give a little forced perspective. I also have some clumps of foliage I'm adding here and there. Just about any kind of dark green clump foliage will work for this, to represent just lower growing desert shrubs. I glue those right on there with some white glue and then go back with some white paint and just kind of frost the tops like that. Simple, and it works. Up until now, you may have noticed that I haven't made any attempt to glue the track down or secure it in any way. That's because I knew I would be able to do it with this snow mixture. So I'm just bringing it up along the edge of the roadbed, creating a little embankment of snow. And since it's held together with PVA glue, it's going to hold that in place very, very well. That track is not going to go anywhere once I get snow on all of it all the way around. Just come back and dry brush on some of our white acrylic paint. Help to blend it in with that snow on either side. And once all this is dry, I can clean the tops of the rails, and the trains will run through here just fine. A couple of the other tools I like to use to apply the snow and work it around is just a good old kitchen spoon and a soft paintbrush. Works great. want to go back and clean the tops of all the rails with a Bright Boy track eraser. Going very lightly. You don't want to gouge down and scratch the track. You just want to get that paint or glue or chunks of snow or anything like that off the top of the rails so the trains will run. Also want to check the inner part of the rail webbing. You just run your fingernail around like that. Make sure there's no big chunks of snow or debris in there that are going to cause the train to derail. And with that, I think our snowy scenery is done for now. There's a section back here by the creek that I still need to do some work on, but I'm waiting to put the bridge in over here before I do that. I'm going to have a little frozen pond, so there will be a little bit more winter effects going on back here. In the center of the layout, I just painted this flat white, kind of sloppily, but that's okay because that's all going to be covered up with the town of St. Nicholas. The little Christmas village that I'm going to build is going to go right here. And I think we're ready now, if my track is clean, to run a train. And there you have it, some snowy scenery for the Santa Fe and St. Nick, and all of a sudden it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. I hope you will like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss the next episode in this series where I'll be adding some structures to the layout to our little town of St. Nicholas. So don't miss that. In the meantime, you can also follow us over on Instagram at thunder.mesa and see what's new on the Thunder Mesa Studio website at thundermesa.studio. And if you really enjoy what we're doing here at the channel and would like to show your support, you can do what these great folks did and head on over to patreon.com/thundermesa and show your support there. Until next time, keep moving forward, my friends. Happy holidays. Adios for now.